All right, grab your coffee, Little Rock, get jacked up. It's time for another episode of The Block Talk, and I am so excited this week to welcome Dr. Cam Patterson. Welcome.
I am happy to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So I reached out to UAMS and wanted to talk to, pretty much the head guy about how the city is impacted not only by the hospital but the university and how all of this works together, what your plans are as far as cancer and institutions and all those things. But let's start with you. Let's start with how you got here, where you're from, and all of that.
I'm from L.A., Lower Alabama. And I'm a cardiologist by training. I was undergraduate at Vanderbilt and did my cardiology training at Emory University in Atlanta. Academic cardiologist, which means you kind of move around during your career. And I spent the last 5 years, up until about a year ago, at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Upper East Side of New York. So I commuted in an hour a day and commuted home an hour a day. And after about 4.5 years of running a hospital there, I decided that we needed to come back down south. And the opportunity presented itself to come to Little Rock. I'd never lived here, never lived in Arkansas. But as soon as I got here, me and my family, we fell in love with Arkansas, with Little Rock, the people here who are amazing, and the natural beauty. I go fly fishing as much as I can on the Little Red River.
So I love that you're from the South originally, because the whole idea that I had about this podcast is to add value to the city of Little Rock, because it's incredible to me that it's still the size that it is for what it has to offer.
It's true, and I get asked a lot, it must be a lot different living in Little Rock compared to living in New York. And, there's only one thing that I miss about living in New York: bagels.
Yeah.
But this is a great foodie town. It's easy to get around. Yeah. Really, you have everything that you need, and the quality of life is so much better.
Yeah, and that's what I feel. I feel similar. I'm from Southern California. I grew up there, and then by way of Las Vegas, ended up here in Arkansas. And after seeing those larger cities and larger developments, I thought the same thing. I thought I'd move here and there wouldn't be maybe as many things as where I came from. But they have it all, and they're so friendly about it.
Yeah, we're foodies, great restaurants here. My wife and I are way into music, and we go out as much as we have time for and see great bands in great venues. Our kids are all in school. Yeah. We got a rising senior at Central, and she's done super well there. We've got an 8th grader who is at Christ the King, and then a 9th grader who will be starting at Mount St. Mary's. Their educational experiences are great, but more important than that, we had choices. Yeah. And so many cities this size, people go, well, there's this school and this school and this school, but everybody sends their kid to this school. You can send your kid to any school here. Yeah,
and it's interesting that you just said that, because you highlighted not only Central, which is a treasure for us here, some of those seniors graduating this year, some of the greatest as far as science and technology that we've seen in a really long time.
Exactly.
And so looking at that graduating class, and then like you said, you mentioned Mount St. Mary's, some of the private schools. I know my son goes to CAC. He's had experience also in other school districts, and we've just had an incredible experience being able to say, well, we'll go here, and and it depends on what your family needs and what they want. So
and what it means is you're not locked into a certain neighborhood to live in.
Right.
You can live wherever you want, and then make a decision about schools. Whereas in so many other places where I've lived or where we've looked at, you have to choose your neighborhood based on what school you want to send your kids to.
Right. I have a little bit of real estate experience.
I
know. I love.
Yeah.
I love that about Little Rock.
Yeah.
But so you also bring to light the fact that we talk about many different schools, areas, neighborhoods. There's also a lot of medical centers here.
There are.
Yes, there's a lot. And it's incredible, because having like Arkansas Children's right down the road is, I'm sure, amazing for you, because you are a university medicine center, right? Can you explain a little bit about what does that mean, that University of Arkansas College for Medical Sciences? Right?
Yeah, so let's talk through the whole thing, because it is kind of complicated. We are a part of the University of Arkansas system.
Yes.
UA Fayetteville, UA Little Rock, Pine Bluff, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the components of the UA system, one of these things is not like the rest.
Yes.
UAMS is different. We are an institute of higher learning, so we have a College of Medicine, College of Pharmacy, College of Nursing, College of Public Health, graduate school, So we provide education across the board. We train 60% of the doctors who practice in Arkansas, 70% of the healthcare professionals overall are trained at UAMS. So we have a big educational component to what we do that somebody who just comes to UAMS to go to the medical center may not appreciate.
Right.
So the medical center is the other part of what we do, and we are the largest provider of healthcare in the state. We are the largest not-for-profit employer in the state with over 10,000 employees. And I think for people who live here in Little Rock, they probably don't appreciate that we're really a statewide organization. We have employees in 74 out of the 75 counties in Arkansas. Wow. We have 8 regional campuses across the state, from northeast Arkansas to northwest Arkansas to southern Arkansas and in the Delta, where we provide care and train physicians who will hopefully stay in those areas, many of which are severely underserved in terms of healthcare providers, to provide access to high-quality UAMS level healthcare. And then here we exist in a rich ecosystem with UAMS, our partner hospitals, the Arkansas Children's Hospital, which you mentioned is an important partner. We provide the vast majority of the care provided at Children's Hospital is by physicians who are UAMS physicians. Same thing with the VA. And then we have St. Vincent's, where we trained most of the physicians who practice there, and Baptist Health, who is increasingly a close partner with UAMS. We provide clinical services at Baptist. We just started a residency program jointly with Baptist Health at their Little Rock campus. In contrast to being in New York, where everything is a bloodbath in terms of competition, here it's we have frenemies, and we have a lot of close friends.
I like to term that in Little Rock co-opetition.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit competitive, but there's cooperation. And I'm just like jaw on the floor amazed by all the things that you just listed, because what I love about this, and I did get some information, I did a little bit of research, but the truth of the matter is I really like finding out right now, here and now, like who you are and what you're about, because it gives me the opportunity to ask some questions that I wouldn't have thought of before.
Yeah.
And so what's exciting about this too is you just listed so many things I didn't even know about UAMS. One of my personal stories I was mentioning before we started recording was my family members have been treated at UAMS. My family history actually involves so much cancer, and specifically that's something UAMS stands apart in, correct?
Well, it is. Cancer is an area that we have a long-standing focus on. We are nationally and internationally renowned for the cancer services that we provide. We see patients from every state in the U.S. every year. Last year, I think we saw patients at the Winthrop P. Rockefeller Cancer Institute from 50 countries outside of the U.S. Unfortunately, cancer touches just about everybody. You have it in your family, and so But even if you don't have a history of cancer in your family, you have somebody in your church, your school that's been touched by cancer. And as I go across the state, we have 3 million Arkansans, and almost everyone has a story about how they have intersected with UAMS in one way or the other. Our cancer services are really critical to the state because there's so much that we do that nobody else in the state does. We're the only bone marrow transplant program in the state. Yeah. So if you have a lymphoma and need a bone marrow transplant, there's really nowhere else for you to come than here at UAMS. And we are on a journey to get something that's called National Cancer Institute, or NCI designation. You probably heard that the state has provided us with $10 million a year to support that journey, and that's going to be important for you
Right.
and your family.
Well, and that's one of the reasons, that was actually my first question after I got to know you a little bit here, is asking kind of about that journey and how does it all come into play, in the sense that can the community help, and what sort of influence can we provide to support that venture with, and this will excite you about it, because I'm definitely, like you said, affects my family. I'm happy to help, because literally, and I could be a statistical anomaly at this point, I don't know. But no one in my family has died of anything but cancer. We literally have 0 deaths on record in my lifetime that were not related to either colon cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, all the cancer. So it's extremely important to me to be close by near care, and for my child and for my husband, for those, and the things we watch with our grandmother. We want to know what to do and where to go and who to talk to, and it's nice to be next to the authority. So tell me about that journey, what it involves, and how the community can help.
Well, the community is already helping. So let me tell you about what NCI designation will mean for you and for your family and your friends, and then talk about how we get there. So there are currently about 70 NCI designated cancer centers in the United States, so 3,000 cancer centers overall. So it's a very small subsection of the cancer centers in the U.S. If we get NCI designation, first of all, we would be the only NCI designated cancer center in the state. We currently don't have one in Arkansas. It would mean a substantial amount of additional research funding would come to UAMS to support our cancer mission, but it would mean a lot more than that. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to attract great talent from outside the state to come here, people who would be willing to move to UAMS to train and be educated, or to come here and to provide clinical care. It will provide access to drugs and clinical trials that are currently only available to NCI designated cancer centers. So think of it this way, and I apologize if I'm getting a little bit too personal, but imagine that you are a woman with unresponsive breast cancer and you live in Arkansas. Right now you fall into one of two categories. You have the means to leave Arkansas and to go to a place like MD Anderson to get those drugs and get into those clinical trials, or you don't have the means and you just don't get treated. We can't tolerate that. NCI designation helps us to solve that problem so that you can stay here in Arkansas, in your community, with the doctors who know you, and still get the best quality of care.
And that's the biggest thing, is like, who wants to move in the middle of this? You know, it's one of the most, and if you haven't experienced that cancer trip, it's one of those things that even when you go through the healing part of it, even when you heal, I have a client right now who is a breast cancer survivor, and it's incredible to watch what she's gone through, but she can't talk about that without really, it's emotional, because your family goes through this whole journey. You don't need to leave the state to go through that as well.
Exactly. And let me tell you something else that will excite the real estate agent in you. If we get NCI designation, we'll have 1,500 jobs in Central Arkansas in the first 5 years. It'll be a $70 million a year boost to the economy of the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, we need that immediately. And the other part is, so how do we get it? I mean, how does it?
So there's a well-defined process. You have to demonstrate that you have collaborative care, that you have centers of excellence in several different areas within the realm of oncology. And probably the most critical thing is there's a certain threshold of federal funding for cancer research that you need to get over to be eligible. Okay. And basically we're kind of halfway there. Okay. So we're right now in a rapid recruitment process where we're trying to recruit people who have funding who are outside of the state to come to UAMS, which will add to that pot of money. We are encouraging our investigators to write more grants. They're being very successful at it. So we're moving quickly, but it's going to be a 5-year process to get there.
Yeah. This is just out of curiosity, because I do want to talk about some of the other things like the tech park and the bioventures that are going on there, but just out of curiosity, and I'm thinking through this, what about agriculture being our number one thing here in Arkansas, and then also talking about that NCI designation? Is there some partnership between the agriculture and the food and all of that and UAMS and the way you guys work together?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm just learning about. You don't talk about agriculture in Manhattan. But it's not just the the agriculture industry that is so powerful here. The Department of Agriculture does a lot of great research, and you think about that. You think about the role that nutrition plays in problems like cancer. Well, this is turning into a big effort for us. So, if I may, I'd love to tell you about what we're doing in that space. First of all, we have been in a process of kind of looking inward. We look outward at the patients that we take care of, the people that we serve in Arkansas. When I got here, Stephanie Garner, who's my provost, my right hand, pointed out to me, this was right around the Thanksgiving holidays, that we had graduate students who were going to be staying around over the holidays, and she was concerned that they didn't have enough food to eat. And I said, you mean like they're not going to be able to cook a turkey? And she said, no, everybody's gone, and some of these graduate students on stipends have spouses who stay at home and a couple of kids, and just on their stipend, they don't have enough money to be sure that they're going to have food on the table every single day. It's a problem called food insecurity.
Yes.
Something that really, frankly, I was not that well educated on. So we said, well, let's do a survey of our 10,500 UAMS employees and all of our students and find out if this is a real issue for us. It was a real issue. It's a real issue affecting up to 20% of the people who work at UAMS are concerned about being able to put a meal on the table every single day.
That's so concerning.
Well, so we said we needed to do something about this. Yeah. And we've done several things. One is, I don't think it is just and equitable to work full-time at UAMS and to worry about having to put a meal on the table. So we've raised our minimum wage from $9 and change an hour to $14 an hour, making sure that everybody who works at UAMS is being paid a living wage. We started a food pantry. Actually, we opened it last week. So anybody who works or is taught at UAMS, if you want to go get food at the food pantry, it's available 2 days a week, fully cooked meals, fresh produce, all the good stuff, prepared by our nutrition services team, who've done an amazing, amazing job of pulling this all together. And we've started a program in culinary medicine. So a lot of doctors like me, we kind of get, patted on the back and said, just, tell your patients to eat better. Yeah. But we really don't spend time talking to you about, what foods do you have access to?
Yeah.
What's in your neighborhood? Do you have a supermarket in your neighborhood? Where do you get your food?
Yeah.
And then how do you take that food that you can buy and turn it into something that is both good for you and tastes good?
Yeah.
So that's culinary medicine in a nutshell. And it's a big issue for us here in Little Rock. There's not a supermarket down on 12th Street right now. It's a food desert there.
Yeah, see what I mean about you appealing to the real estate agent in me as well?
Yeah.
Bring all the grocery stores. We need more of them. And the thing is selling fresh fruits and vegetables, because if we are number one in agriculture, access to good food should be the number one thing that we have.
Exactly. So, so working with the agriculture team on this, we're collaborating with Pulaski Tech on the culinary medicine program. Again, it's the great thing about being here. People want to work together.
Well, I don't know if these NCI guys are listening, but I'm thinking that sounds a lot like collaborative.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're working on the oncology. So let's talk about then moving from agriculture into the technology sphere. I spent Wednesday evening at the tech event. They had the demo day 2019, and it was incredible to watch all of these companies come into Little Rock and talk about what they're doing there at the Venture Park and Venture Center. So can you tell me about your involvement there with just the tech park and the innovation that's been coming this direction?
Sure. So innovation and entrepreneurship is something that I've been involved in for a while. I helped to start when I was at the University of North Carolina, before I was in New York, the program for identifying innovative ideas within the university and turning them into ideas that could benefit people outside of the university. I wrote a book on it.
What book is that? I'm going to get it.
Research to Revenue.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
which is basically a entrepreneurship for dummies.
Yeah. Okay, I need that. Somebody get me a copy now.
And we need to do a lot of that here. You look around this area, and there are so many areas where we're actually world-class in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation. The financial services sector, for example,
unbelievable.
where we've done a great job here. I don't think that we've fully lived up to our potential here. And I think part of that has been, it's an area where we haven't been as collaborative as we could be. Now, one resource that we do have at UAMS is BioVentures. Nancy Gray has done a fabulous job with, frankly, too few resources to create a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship at UAMS. But we're realizing now that with Innovate Arkansas, Governor Hutchinson's support for innovation and entrepreneurship, and the appreciation that healthcare is such a big component of our economy here, I think the time is right to see us go from B+ to A+.
Yeah, it's incredible for me because I feel like I have a lot of friends and business partners that are also entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
I also started my business here in Little Rock and have grown it to where I can sustain a lifestyle that I didn't really imagine possible when I was a single parent living
Right.
down the road from UAMS. I see the housing opportunities around there. I see the students moving into the area. I happen to know we have many world, like other countries, others from other places coming to Arkansas specifically to be at UAMS to be part of what you guys are doing. It's different than what everybody else is doing in the state. So we appreciate that. But what about, and how does this relate to, you said BioVentures. What exactly is BioVentures and how do people really get their head around that? How do we find support for what?
Sure. So BioVentures is basically a set of tools and set of resources that are available to UAMS faculty, scientists, employees who have an idea, and we provide space. We provide a lot of the basic resources for taking that idea and turning it into something that you can bring to the market or sell to somebody else to benefit people. But it's more than that. It's kind of hand-holding, training, educating. Somebody like me, I went to medical school, but nobody sat me down and said, this is how you write a business plan.
Right.
This is how you raise money to support the idea that you have. And BioVentures provides a lot of that secret sauce to help to make that happen.
It sounds a lot like what FinTech does or FinTech, what they do, but with business incubation, your sort of medical incubation.
Right.
So that's incredible. That's like a Shark Tank for medicine. How do we shine more spotlights on this? I mean, for all of you listening, please go and research the BioVentures, but
I think we are really on the verge of getting a lot more attention to this. In fact, we just had this earlier this week, a team from the University of North Carolina, the business school there, who came to visit us to look at what we're doing here. So, people are coming from outside of Arkansas to see what we're doing here. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's really cool, but that's the thing is, so you're from Alabama. Yeah. You've been as big as the Big Apple, which I think it's funny that you're a cardiologist and the I Love New York shirts. I mean, I could just play off that all day. Yeah. So when you got here to Arkansas, you're unfamiliar really technically with Little Rock and surrounding areas. You and your family, like you said, you love it. It's beautiful. But really medicine-wise, why do you want to practice here? Is there just open? Is it open to exploration and testing? And
Well, I think part of it is that it's the personal satisfaction that you get by, being able to work with friendly people who are really passionate about what you do. And I'll be honest, there are plenty of people in New York who want to see their name in the paper attached to the largest salary possible, and that's the reason for being in New York. And nobody here is here in Arkansas for that reason. But, I think the deeper reason is that there's so much opportunity. We are, as we said, the only academic medical center in the state, and there are people who, were UAMS not here, would not have access to health care at all. Yeah. Right now, we talked about cancer. There is an epidemic of colorectal and prostate cancer in African American men in the Delta. Nobody from New York is going to come here to figure that out. Nobody from Washington, D.C. is going to come here to figure that out. We're going to have to do it ourselves. And I feel a sense of pride that, I've always been proud of what I do, but I've never found a sense of pride on a daily basis like I feel when I come to work.
Yeah. That makes me so happy, because that's the whole reason why we wanted to talk with you about this and get this information out to a whole nother generation
Sure.
of people that are moving here and or live here. So like I mentioned before, moving here to this community was what opened my eyes to see all of this opportunity and want to expose this to people who do. If you want to practice medicine, what better place to learn than here?
For sure.
When you can live in a way that, you're not only paid a living wage, this is a livable place.
It's a very livable place. It's convenient, it is friendly, it is warm. You can support pretty much any type of personal interest here. And you really run the gamut, I see people who work downtown and come to work dressed like I'm dressed right now. And I practice on our 12th Street clinic, the free clinic, and I see people who have nowhere else to go and have been uncared for years and years and years, who are desperate for good health care. I get both of that at the same time, and that's rare.
Yeah, I love that about Little Rock. It's almost like a reminder, a gratitude situation of like,
Sure.
This is where you could be, and this is where,
Yeah.
there's two different things. So we're going to start talking about digital health in just a second, but I had an interview recently, and it was Monday. I was talking to somebody who was representing the idea of creating a school for children here that was centered around them rehabilitating from drugs or from being exposed to that.
Yep.
I didn't know that Arkansas technically nationwide is actually top where it comes to 12 to 17-year-olds who are recovering from drugs or involved with drugs. With respect to that and the healthcare and just the epidemic of drugs in our culture and kids getting hooked on them at a young age and things like that, UAMS has a very unique opportunity there, right? Because there isn't anything in the state to support that problem. Do you guys have any sort of research in that direction or on that level?
Well, we do, and I was just having a conversation with Cindy Gillespie, who's in charge of DHS, and she's very passionate about this issue as well. I think we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to work with the Department of Education. How do we get into the schools and get the right messages out? Frankly, to be honest, some of the problem has been created by physicians. The opioid epidemic has been driven in part by too many prescriptions for drugs that are harmful. If you get a prescription for an opiate, you have a 2 to 4%, one prescription for an opiate, oxycodone, something like that, you have a 2 to 4% chance of becoming addicted just with that one prescription. So there's a lot that we need to do. We have been collaborating with Blue Cross Blue Shield to provide addiction services statewide. They've been very generous in that, in their support of that. We have research, especially in our College of Public Health, that focuses on opiates in rural areas. And I think we have a special opportunity here in Arkansas to be kind of best in breed and to identify ways to intervene that we can then shop around to other states who will pay attention to what we're doing. It's a critical issue, and it's it can't just be UAMS alone or the Department of Health alone or DHS alone. It's going to have to be all of us working together.
Well, you can't blame me. UAMS has been forward-thinking in so many other directions.
Yeah.
I had to go ahead and bring it up while I had the chance. And this is the thing about digital health. I don't understand a lot about how healthcare and the digital age come together.
Yeah.
Now, I have an 11-year-old son who seems to think that everything is connected to a screen. And so I'm thinking that maybe he's right. Maybe there is a place for healthcare and digital technology to mix. Can you tell me some of that?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. So, I first got engaged in digital health when I was up in New York. And we actually created an app that allowed you could be anywhere, to directly interface over your iPhone or your Android with a physician in real time. So imagine this.
I would never hang up. I would be on this MD all day. Like, can you see this? What's wrong with it?
No, but that's exactly what you can do. So, imagine that, your 8-year-old daughter wakes up in the middle of the night and she's coughing, and you don't know whether she needs a chest x-ray and antibiotics or whether you just need to give her a hug and put her back to bed. Now, right now you have to go into the emergency room, be seen, and is this group? And, if she, is seriously ill, or is this just a virus and she's going to be fine? Now you can do that over your iPhone in real time. And we will be able to do the same thing here in Arkansas by the end of the year.
How exciting.
Yes.
That is amazing. Did you bring that here for us?
Well,
Thank you.
We've got a great team. We've got a great team working on it. But we already have a lot of expertise in this domain. Curtis Lowry, who is the director of our new Institute for Digital Health and Innovation, is nationally renowned for his work in, for his work in telemedicine, and he's created great programs around maternal fetal medicine, since we're the only maternal fetal medicine service in the state. So if you're a high-risk mom and you live in Paragould, rather than having to move to Little Rock to spend the last 3 months of your pregnancy, being around the maternal fetal medicine providers here, you can stay in your community and be attached to them through telemedicine portals. The same thing with our stroke program. We started, it's called AR Saves, a statewide stroke network where a UAMS stroke neurologist is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to provide stroke care. And every year since we have started that program, stroke outcomes have improved across the whole state.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's totally amazing.
So we're doubling down on our efforts to push digital technology into the realm of healthcare. My feeling is where you live should not determine your access to care.
Yeah.
And digital technology helps us to break down those barriers.
That's extremely valuable to add that to our community
Yeah.
and give people this option, because it's funny, you mentioned the neonatal situation, that particular part of UAMS as well has touched my family too, because my niece was born there, and I guess she was, I don't know how many weeks, but I guess she was about 6 months when she delivered.
Yeah.
And it was a very
Touch and go.
terrifying, touch and go situation. That little girl is, to this day, you would have no idea. You would have no idea that she went through all of that, and she's developmentally almost on time, and it's incredible to think that there was no possibility that she was going to even survive without that kind of quality care and being right here. If we hadn't been right here, it would have been a total different story.
You bet.
That's the terrifying part.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we need to make sure that, if you have, serious hepatitis, if you have HIV, if you have a rare disease and you don't live in a metropolitan area, digital health is a way to make sure that the healthcare system stays attached to you and attached to your family.
Yeah. There's a bunch of families here locally. I can think of one in particular, totally Emma. There's a friend of mine that has a daughter that goes, and she's got a very, very rare, rare syndrome, and she is treated as well. Same thing. They have this incredible journey, and they've gone through children's and through, and it's all possible because of their locality, and that sounds like they could move and still have that access. So that's really exciting.
And I think you mentioned something that I think is really important, which is the fact that we do have these great partnerships, like our partnership with Children's Hospital, means that you can be treated as a child at Children's Hospital. If you've got a chronic problem, a lifelong problem, you just transition naturally to UAMS. So it's not as if you have to start all over in an entirely new system, or there's not a warm handoff when you grow up and you're ready to go to an adult hospital. That doesn't happen everywhere.
No, it doesn't. And what's interesting is, like we talked about being from larger areas and coming down to some place like this, everyone always says that Little Rock is a small town in a big city, and I totally agree with that. I think that what's interesting about what you guys are doing is it's going to grow our community kind of on its own, because people will get excited about this kind of thing and they'll move this direction, and then it will grow and we'll have that big city environment.
Yeah.
But what I hope will stay the same is this same accessibility like this. Being able to connect with you, who is way up here in this environment of medicine, and me over here in this community realm trying to connect and find out more about our community and add value to that. The fact that we can connect like this and have this conversation is incredible. And it wouldn't happen in New York City, I don't think. And there would be too many levels of separation. And I think that that's what I love about Little Rock, is that community. So as far as your access, though, I have to ask you this. For women who are pregnant, women who are going through that whole scenario, what do you think is their best, at UAMS anyways, do they have access already to digital care? Is there a way for a bed rest mom to really be taken care of through that end of her pregnancy?
We're continuing to expand those services. In fact, we're looking at ways in which we can better integrate some of our women's health services at UAMS, so that women have special issues that change during the course of their lifespan. And we're working right now to come up with plans to make sure that that is better integrated. In terms of introducing digital technologies, one of I think the really cool and innovative things that we do is, if you have a child who is in our neonatal intensive care unit, you can actually view your child from home 24 hours a day, or grandparents can view the child. So you can't be there all the time, but this is a way to go, you wake up in the middle of the night and you just want to make sure your baby is okay, you can check.
Yeah, and grandparents need that. Because,
you bet they do.
Yeah, I've discovered that your parents actually don't love you; they just love your kids. They're just raising you so they can get the grandkids. Is what I think is happening. So, well, it's been interesting to find out all of these different things about UAMS I didn't know. I know that for me personally, I have watched many a family member go through many a procedure, have many an experience at UAMS, and sometimes it's not always. I mean, cancer, it does kill people eventually at some point. But to have someone like my grandmother, and I just want to make sure I say thank you, because I feel like everything that everybody does at that hospital played a role in what happened with her care. When she passed away, we got a card in the mail from UAMS. Every doctor and every nurse that had worked with her signed it. This has been a journey for us for 11 years. We have been to every single doctor's office, and we've met with everyone from residents to oncologists and specialists, everywhere in between. And every step of the way, we were treated like we were family. And every step of the way, she was able to live quality life. She was able to be happy and have fun and go to church with her friends and play games and garden, and all the while battling this disease that you would have thought would keep her down. And so I just thank you for coming on the show and for coming to Arkansas and for helping us to grow this incredible place.
Well, thanks for sharing your own story. It makes it easier to talk about when we're talking about real things. We have a lot of work to do. We need to be more innovative. We're happy when people feel like they've had good experiences, but we also realize that we need to improve our game as well. And it's only when you can have open and honest conversations that you can be sure that you're finding out what we can do on a daily basis to make sure that all 3 million Arkansans are proud of what UAMS does and go to sleep at night feeling a little bit more comfortable, because we are there if you need us.
Yes. So in closing, I would say that if you had a message to give people who don't live in Arkansas, who've never been here before, maybe they're a physician, maybe they're a graduating medical student, maybe they're in a situation where they don't know where they want to take their practice or what they want to build. If you had the opportunity to sort of FinTech demo day them and say, hey, come to Arkansas, what would you say to them in that moment?
Yeah, I would say, reflect in your mind what the ideal living environment for you would be. And we're all different in that regard, but think through what that is. Take any ideas that you have about Arkansas and put them aside, and then really test whether Arkansas will meet your expectations and needs that you have to fulfill yourself. Because I'm willing to bet that Arkansas is a better fit for more people than they realize.
Yeah. And just to mention that, by the way, from the real estate perspective, we do have the downtown, we have the out in the country, we have the on the river, we have the multifamily, whatever you're looking for, we've got it. So there's a place to build your practice and come help us research cancer, become the NCI that we are after being, and just grow this thing from what it is to what it could be.
Well, we moved from New York. We got an extra 1,000 square feet of space in our house. We quadrupled the size of land that we were on, and the house cost a quarter of our house in New York.
Oh, did everybody hear that? It sounds like Arkansas is the place to live. It's also the place to invest. I was telling some investors who actually are coming in after you to meet with me about what they're doing here. They're coming in from Colorado, and they're planning to develop several subdivisions over time, and they're just kind of giddy about it. And I'm like, why are you guys so excited about all of this work? And they're like, because it's so cheap. It's amazing to see what you guys have going on. So let's be mindful about that. You guys that are moving here, make sure that you're reaching out and seeing what you can do for this community, especially UAMS and any programs they offer here locally. You guys need to keep abreast of that and keep an eye out. You guys have a marketing department, I'm sure, that kind of gets the word out about events that are coming up and ways to participate. Is there somewhere to follow?
Yeah, we have all kinds of activities in the community. We sponsor a lot of things that go on in the community. We got, for instance, a great relationship with Oxford American, which is yet another fantastic resource here in Arkansas that people should tap into. But there are a lot of ways that we interact with the community, in part because we need to hear from the community, and we need the community to know that we are there for them. If you're moving from out of town, no matter where you are, I guarantee you're not going to get better access to medical care than you get here in Little Rock.
Well, thank you so much for your valuable time. We
You bet.
appreciate you being here. All of our listeners, make sure that if you get sick or hurt, you know where to go. And we can go find that book as well. What did you say the name of that was?
Research to Revenue.
So Google that, order that on Amazon, and if you have any more questions, we will definitely send them on to Dr. Patterson. Thank
Please
you again
do.
for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Okay, Block Talk, we're out.